Hi, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, everyone. We're just going to give our participants a little bit more time so everyone can join and get connected, and we'll be getting started here in just a few minutes. All right, awesome. So it looks like we have quite a few people were able to join us today. We'll give everyone about another 30 seconds or so. All right, awesome. So it looks like we have quite a few people were able to get joined. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Terrence Mortimer. I am with Snap One ADI. I'm one of the technical trainers here. My main focus is training our technicians for the automation programmer class. I'm joined by Alex. He's the director of product management on the speaker side. Alex, did you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us for hopefully will be a informative session. I'm the Director of Product Management for Speakers. I manage both Episode and Triad. I've been with the company now almost 8 years. And pretty much the rest of my career has been in speaker or consumer electronics product development.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Alex. So today we're going to be discussing a new line of speakers that Snap One and ADI are getting ready to launch. And this product is going to be available for all of our ADI partners, as well as our legacy Snap One partners as well. Our goal for the next few minutes or half an hour or so is to answer a few questions. Who is Episode? We'll quickly talk about our Surroundscape speakers. What are the performance enhancements surrounding this new release? We'll discuss the reliability of these speakers, and most importantly, how easy these speakers are to install when you're out installing these on your jobs. So kind of quickly diving into who is Episode. The Episode speaker, not just the landscape, but some of our architectural speakers. We released these back in 2006, and in roughly about 2015, we entered the landscape speakers. So that's when we first released our first landscape speaker line, and this is the first time these speakers are being redesigned. So as you can see, the first generation did have a long run. So what that tells you is a couple things. What we designed back in 2015 was amazing. And now we've come out with a new product for our ADI customers to be able to utilize as well. So Episode as a whole, our main focus is sound quality, and it always has been. So what we use is high quality components that utilize high quality materials, and the main focus is reducing that audio distortion and essentially having that enhanced audio quality. As far as the speakers, they do have wide dispersion patterns. This does give you that consistent sound when you're installing these, outside. And most importantly, if a product's going to spend its entire life cycle outside, the device does have to be reliable. So these essentially these speakers are designed to withstand, various environmental conditions, etc. So this is a quick introduction to the Surroundscape satellite speaker. So there are a few variations of this particular model. So this model does come in a 4-inch. It is available in 6 inches. And it also does come in the larger 8-inch size. So there is a big call out for the 8-inch size that I'm going to adjust. I will address that in the upcoming slides. Now, for the 8-inch, primarily you're going to want to use these on your commercial jobs. These do have the widest dispersion for less speakers to cover a particular area. Let's quickly jump into some specs, specifically for the satellite speakers. So these do have the option to go full 8 ohm. 8 ohm is primarily what you're going to use on your smaller scale jobs. But as you can see, the bigger the speaker, the more wattage you can essentially put through that speaker. So the 4-inch, it typically will max out at about 95 watts, just under 100 watts, 130 watts on the 6-inch, and the 180 watts on the 8-inch. Now, a major call out on the 8-inch variant is it does have a 1.5-inch aluminum woofer, and that does include a mid-range. So you do get that mid-range sound. It does essentially make it a 3-way speaker. Now let's talk about some performance, some of the performance aspect of these satellite speakers. So all models do have a max 60-watt tap setting when used in the 70-volt space. And again, kind of going back to that shallow woofer depth. So it does allow for wider dispersion, allowing for greater distance between the speakers. So jumping into some of the reliability aspects of these satellite speakers. So we redesigned the stakes for these. So these are now fully aluminum. So no rust, no breaking, and essentially this is 3 times stronger than the previous model. So as we did mention, this device is exposed to the elements at all times. So it does have a gore breather at the back of the unit, and this does allow to regulate the pressure inside of the actual unit. And I know you guys have seen outdoor speakers, specifically when they have a little bit of age on them, the UV paint starts to fade and you get that chalking appearance. So you will not have that issue with this new model on the Surroundscapes. And last but not least, and in my opinion, most importantly, all of the speakers do have an IP67 waterproof rating on them. Now, I did mention IP67, and just to kind of demystify that, so essentially what that means is little to no dust. There's no intrusion of water or dust on these, so it can withstand, low pressure jets, and even a brief time you can submerge these as well. So essentially, it will survive, roughly up to 30 minutes. Granted, I wouldn't suggest that, but it can if we were ever to get to that point. Now, more importantly, and this is the biggest thing for our installers, is how easy is a product to install. Now, granted, you guys are going to be out in the field and installing these units, and we designed these with the installer in mind. Now, granted, you all are going to have times where running the infrastructure for the speaker system, we essentially want that to be the hardest part of the job. So what we did was we do have a quick connect collar, which is extremely strong. So essentially you just take the speaker, you screw it on. It can be screwed onto a deck, a mounting pole, etc. And long gone are the messy silicone wire nuts. So we do have an integrated wiring block. So essentially you just screw down the terminals, you stick it into the neck of the speaker, and it's tucked away from the elements as well. Now, I had an issue with another model of speaker that I installed, and it's really tough. After the install is done, now you have to re-aim the speaker. So that essentially meant I had to dig the unit out and turn it to get the right aiming. That's not an issue with these. These do have it built into the quick connect collar. You simply unscrew it, you turn the speaker where you want it, and now the speaker is essentially aimed. And just kind of harping on that installability issue, if this stake were plastic, it's really tough to get into the clay. I'm based out of North Carolina, so we have that hard clay. Or you may have a lot of rocks or debris in the dirt where you want to plant these speakers. So we did include a rubber hammer cap, and it does allow for you to essentially peel the wires away, tuck them away, hammer that stake into the ground, and you guys are good to go. So we did talk about the satellite speakers. So that included, the mids as well as the highs. But more importantly, and this is my favorite of them all, is the subwoofers, that low end frequency, essentially the bass. Now, a call out on these new units that are coming soon. These will not be available until Q1, but rest assured they will be available prior to your spring and summer installs. So coming soon is the 12-inch hardscape subwoofer, as well as 3 versions of the buried subwoofer. So this sub does come in an 8-inch, a 10, and a 12-inch. So let's quickly look at some specs on the hardscape sub. This is a picture of the unit. So it is an 8-ohm sub, and it can handle up to 500 watts of power. And then jumping into some specs on the buried sub. So the 10-inch and the 12-inch both handle 500 watts, while the 8-inch, it's for smaller scale jobs. So this one is rated at about 300 watts. All of them do have poly woofers built into them. And now let's talk about performance. So the drivers that are built into them are high excursion drivers. So essentially what that means is how far that speaker can travel before you start to get that distorted, muffled sound. So you can put roughly about 500 watts into these, and it is earth-shattering bass. And moving back to reliability, we did follow the same model. So these subwoofers are IP67 rated as well. And this is a roto-molded enclosure. So some additional enhancements in reference to the installability of these. We did switch to a one-piece rectangular shape on the subwoofers. So what that means when you're doing an install, once upon a time, other manufacturers specifically, it was a 2-piece install, and it was a big drum. So essentially you needed 2 people to install this thing and put it into the ground. Ours are a little bit different, where this can essentially be a one-person install, even with the biggest sub. Now, coming soon in Q1, this is another call out. We are coming out with a conduit mount. So these, you'll generally use these where wire management is of the most importance. So you can use just a standard 2-inch Schedule 40 PVC to install these for wire management. And another call out for installability on this model sub is it does offer a permanent mounting option. So you can essentially attach this to a deck and then screw the top piece down. So this way it doesn't move at all. All right, so we talked about mids, we talked about lows, we talked about performance, reliability, but the one thing we don't have is power. So this offering is by episode. So this is our hybrid amp. This unit does come in a 1,000 watt variant as well as a 2,000 watt variant. So essentially it will have 500 watts per channel on the lower end unit and 2,000 watts on the higher end. This unit is IP enabled, but as you can see in this slide, it does have a front panel, so you can essentially configure this device directly from the front panel. I personally use this unit. I prefer the IP option or logging into the UI of the unit because it's just so quick and easy. A big call out for this amplifier, though, is it does offer specific DSP settings for our speaker line in particular. So if you have, 2 subs and 3 4-inch speakers, there's a DSP setting for that. There's no need to play around with the settings after you've been digging trenches all day. You do have the option, just set it and forget it, pick the DSP, and off to the races you go. And a huge call out for this is this amp is Oversee enabled. So what does that mean for you? This does offer full remote management. So if you do install this, customer has an issue, you guys who are familiar with Oversee, you have the option to log in remotely to potentially fix any issues that arise post-install. So let's look at a typical smaller scale system. So this is essentially what it could look like. You can have 2 speakers on one channel, 2 speakers on the other, and that would be what it would look like wiring a smaller scale setup using the 8 ohm option. Now on the 70 volt side, this is a little bit easier because you do have the option to simply daisy chain as many speakers as the amp will allow before you essentially max out the amp on that 500 watts or 1,000 watts, depending on which amp you're using. But kind of going back to what I said, this scenario will include just mids and highs. There are no lows in this situation. So a good thing with this amp is you can run 8 ohm on channel 1 and 70 volt on channel 2. So you can have the low end and your subwoofers on the first channel, and then simply daisy chain the 70 volt speakers on channel 2. And again, going back to the fact that you simply use the DSP based on the model speakers that you have. All right, and I'll pass it on to Alex for any questions that may have come up during the course of the webinar.
I do not see anything open. Feel free to drop something in there if you have any questions.
And one thing I can quickly call out, though, that I did not have a slide for is these amps do have the ability to be stacked for our larger scale commercial jobs. So you can utilize the amps as well as the speakers for a larger scale commercial install. So say, for example, you have 30, I'm just calling out numbers here, 30 satellite speakers and 2 subwoofers, you can use the loop out of the amplifier to loop out to stack the amps.
So, okay, what is the lowest impedance the stereo channels can support? I can answer that one. Gabby, you said you could. So technically, the current hybrid amp is 2 ohm stereo stable. So you could run 4 8 ohm speakers in parallel on the one channel. So that would be kind of your limitation on high impedance, sorry, for low impedance. And for high impedance, of course, it's really the amount of wattage in the amp. And then you add up all the tap settings for each of the individual speakers to determine how many you can do in 70 volt. Another question, still have a limited lifetime, sorry, did that go? Limited lifetime warranty. So we've gone to a 5-year warranty on these products to align with other players in the market. We have substantially improved the reliability. The reformulation of the paint is certainly one of the things that is going to help for in longevity. And then, of course, having 3 or 4 times stronger, a stake mechanism for mounting is going to have improved reliability as well. Next question I see, what is a low frequency spec on the on-ground sub? I don't know if you can, Terrence, I don't know if you had that in there as a spec on the hardscape.
Let's see.
It looks like they did not put that in there. All right, well, I will have to dig that up and send that out to you, Craig. Got another question, might have missed it. What are the size woofers and the satellite speakers? So 4-inch, 6-inch, and 8-inch options. And then there's a question in regards to older landscape speakers. Any warranty on paint failures? Yes, we do honor paint fading as a warranty replacement item. So depending on the size that you have that may have an issue in the field today, we have some warranty stock set aside to be able to handle warranty claims for the short-term period, and for long-term period, we would replace the old product with new. And how many zones is the amplifier? So the hybrid amplifiers are 2-channel. We recommend doing the subwoofer on the one channel and the satellites on the other, but completely flexible. You could do stereo, satellites on both, depending on how you build out the system. And I do not see any other questions. All right.
And awesome. Hopefully that means that we were thorough today, Alex.
Yep. Perfect. Well, thanks everyone. Appreciate your time.
And so once again, just wanted to quickly close out. If you guys have any questions, you reach out to your sales rep. You can get additional information about the products on the website as well, and more information to come on how to essentially order these products as well. So thank you everyone for joining.